All right, so we are going to be getting into a video of Gavin Newsom on one of the many interviews that he is doing right now. You would think he was on the campaign trail, how many interviews I've seen him on just on X alone, trying to walk his way back and get himself out of this very fried pickle that he is in regards to the California wildfires. So let's get into this. This podcast, the name is eluding me. All I read was that it was just a very far left, of course, podcast that he reached out to them to do because he's trying to get, out in front of this. He's obviously reading and seeing all of the slack and the calls for resignation. People are pissed as they have a right to be. So let's watch him give his 2 cents on this.
Just before we started recording, you invited Donald Trump to come here to Los Angeles, see the devastation. You said the hundreds of thousands of Americans displaced from their homes and fearful for the future deserve to see us all working together in their best interests, not politicizing a human tragedy and spreading disinformation from the sidelines. So this is after Trump blamed you for the fires. He says it's the fault of water mismanagement. Your initial response to that was, I have a lot of thoughts and I know what I want to say. I won't. Yeah. It seems like you're trying to walk a very fine line here, extending an open hand to Trump as you signed your letter, but also calling him out for spreading disinformation. Is that because you have concerns that he might withhold disaster assistance when he becomes president?
He's been pretty straightforward about that. He's tried to do it in the past. He's not just done it here in California. He's done it in states all across the country. I mean, he did it in Puerto Rico. He did it even in Utah. He did it in Connecticut. In other states, Georgia, he got upset. What the president-elect was saying about state water project and the Delta smelt somehow being culpable of somehow leading to some of the challenges that we face down here was it's words. It's a salad. It's the form and substance of fog. It's made up. It's delusional. And it's a consistent mantra from Trump going back years. And it's reinforced over and over within the right wing. And so it's become gospel. And it's so profoundly ignorant. And yet he absolutely believes it. It's not an ignorance on his part. It's sort of an indelible misinformation that he sort of manifested, a falsehood. And he decided to bring it into this crisis in a profoundly demeaning and damaging way. I say demeaning to the facts, demeaning to the people that were suffering and struggling, to the kids literally were watching their schools burn down.
You're ultimately responsible as the governor of the state.
I mean, of course. I want to know the answers. So I'm the governor of California. I want to know the answer. I've got that question. I can't tell you about how many people, what happened. My own team saying what happened. And I want to get the answers. And I'll be candid with you, I wasn't getting straight answers.
Yeah.
I watched the press conference. I met with some of those leaders. We had my team start talking to local leaders, saying what's going on. Our state,
and you weren't getting straight answers from the local leaders.
I was getting different answers. And so for me, that's not a story. When you start getting different answers, then I'm not getting the actual story. And they're assessing it. And I get that as well. You have to a little bit of grace, back to the point. We're in this emergency environment and everything else. So I just want to determine the facts. But no one has any patience anymore. In this weaponized, back to the grievance of Trump, everyone else. There's immediacy. And lies travel the proverbial world. And it's hard to get the facts out there unless you have the backing of those facts and you can communicate them soberly. And so that's what we're trying to achieve.
Okay. Trump and his manifest ignorance. Okay. I don't know how they made this about Trump. That was, I believe, their first mistake. Why do they always do that? They always make it about Trump. Your argument would be so much stronger if you just stuck to the facts and didn't mention Trump, because then you're just throwing it out there to deflect. And we all see that. That's so annoying. Now, to his other points, his delusional points about word salad, you're not even answering the real questions that a lot of Californians are posing towards you. They are so upset. They are pissed. I have never in my life seen so many Hollywood, just actors in general, come out and ask for a resignation. They're so angry that they're going after him finally for his ludicrous policies. Where were you on election day? I think that that's what California and people that are defending California being the victim here, which I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying you have to put it into context. You voted for this man. You voted Democrat. You voted for all of these insane, extremist, leftist policies that he is enacting, spending your money towards. You voted for him. And that's the problem that we on the right noticed years ago, is that the left doesn't get it. If we give them an inch, they take 100 miles. That is why this election season was so damning to the Democrats, was because we had to put up like this brick wall. Like, we're not trying to stop everything, but you are so far gone that now we have to reel you back in because we don't even know where you are anymore. So when people are coming out and they don't have a lot of empathy for the people in that are, have been devastated by these wildfires. What did we start out with? The Palisades fire, the Eaton fire, the Hearst fire, the Woodley fire. There was Hollywood Hills burning. These are, a lot of them are neighborhoods that are wealthy, right? That's probably why you have all this activism from these Hollywood stars, because they no longer have a home. And now they're finally starting to get into the conversation, irregardless of them, because usually, right, actors, they like to walk a fine line. They don't like to get too political because then it can have disastrous ramifications in their career. But now they're so pissed because they see this, what it is for, a misjustice of their leadership in California. And all of the funds that Gavin Newsom takes from your tax dollars, federal and state, to do what he's doing. He himself, I believe, removed, gosh, how much was it? 100 million from the wildfire budget. The mayor removed 18 million from the wildfire budget, and I'm sure that they're allocating those to some of their crazy, policies that were, the rest of the United States is watching California, and I'm in awe. I'm in awe that people are still moving there. I'm in awe that more people haven't left there. They are, though. There's Californians are leaving in droves to different states. I know I'm here in Texas, and there has been a lot of movement and a lot of people that have come here from there, which is right, oil and water. But we're finally starting to see the left wake up. These Democrats wake up and want justice, and we're like, where have you been? Where have you been? Has the Xanax just been a daily process now? Where have you been when he's been allocating all of these funds, right? Isn't it 50 million that he's setting aside just to quote unquote Trump proof California? That's where your money's going, to Trump proof, to presidentially proof your state, like you're somehow not part of the United States. That's insane. And that's where your money's going. But when it comes to having actual water to fight fires, that's not a priority, right? That's not a priority. Giving drugs to the homeless and the addicts, that's a priority. Trump proofing California, that's a priority. Now, when it comes to this debate, right, because he's walking it back very carefully, he is trying to deflect blame, which, is that what a leader does? Or does a leader get on and say, you know what? This is my responsibility, and I'm going to see where I faltered. I'm going to see what I could have done better, and I'm going to do it. Okay. I'm going to get after this thing. And what is he saying? Every single interview that I have seen him in, all he was doing was saying there's like reporters were calling him out, especially the water, right? The water was a major issue. Not to mention that, what was it, brush cleaning and getting all the dead wood out from all of those areas. That should have been a priority as well, but they didn't do that either. And that's why a lot of these got out of control. But he was trying to walk it back, and everybody was like, well, this is, you're the leader. What went, like, people want some answers. Do you have any for us? And he's like, you know what? They're like, you're responsible. He's like, you know what? I'm going to find who's responsible. I'm going to investigate what happened here. And I'm going to bring you somebody. I'm going to bring you somebody to blame because he's getting the blame. He's the leader. How can you deflect responsibility like that when he's the one in charge of all the money, all the policies, what they do with that in California? Like, it's beyond me. But he is assuring people that he is going to put an investigation into this and he's going to figure out what went wrong. Now, when it comes to the water issue, which in California, water has always been an issue, will always be an issue, especially when you are separating North California to South California. And there's been a lot of debate, conflict, controversy surrounding it. But as the wildfires have intensified year after year after year, like, we're talking about a wildfire that is um, in the dead of winter, which is, it's hard for me. It's ironic for me. I look out my window and it's snow. It's been snow out there for 4 days. And then I see these videos of the devastation and California just burning. And I guess when I was a lass, the wildfires weren't like that. Um, and now they're happening more and more and more, and in weather that you wouldn't think they're happening in. And so it's just becoming more devastating and more frequent. So you would think that your money and policies would be strengthening the ability to fight these wildfires, because when you think of California, you think of wildfires. That is a prominent issue. It's a problem. It's something that should be looked at more so than anything. And don't get me wrong, since Gavin Newsom has been in there since, what is it, 2018, there has been so many needles put into that haystack of problems that this is just, we're just talking about this one now because it's happening. But there's a slew of issues and problems with his policies, his dynamics, and his rhetoric. And it seems to be now finally coming to a head with just Democrats in general. It's always been an issue with the right, but now I feel like Democrats are starting to get on board of like, what are you doing, man? Where is our money going and what are you spending it on? So him deflecting and talking about Trump, for one, of course, right? Trump, they're all deluded. Talking about the smelt fish, talking about the water. Now, we're gonna circle back to the water because just the previous year, I know that billions of gallons of water had been released from local reservoirs in California in an effort to keep water levels low, and it was because of the dams, and not sure if they were going to succeed or fail. So something tells me that the dams should have been restored, that some money probably should have went to that so that they could hold the water needed for such an incident as a wildfire. And then some are saying that this is just a crazy fire season, and the drought was so extreme that it's as simple as a supply and demand issue. Like, that's all it boils down to, is supply and demand. But I don't think people are stopping there. You've seen them. They're deep diving into what the real issue is here in California. In what it has to do with water, because obviously water is not the only facet of the water issue. You have farmers, you have residents. Um, I remember hearing Trump doing a speech because he had a bunch of houses in LA or California somewhere, where it was like they're always on a, like, don't use that much water. You only have this much to use. He's like, you buy these nice houses, you can't even flush the toilet. You can't have baths or swimming pools or whatever, which is crazy when you think about the prices out there, the taxes just out there, which a lot of actors are bringing up right now, because they pay a lot to live in California, a high cost of living out there. And what do you get in return? Gavin Newsom spending your money to go fund these crazy, ludicrous, unnecessary leftist agendas. This is, again, California, this is what you voted for. This is why the rest of the United States is looking at you and just shaking our heads. And now you want us to support you and feel for you and, you know, be empathetic. And it's really hard to be when you voted for him and you've been backing him and this leftist narrative. It's hard for the rest of us to look at you and not be like, I told you so. A lot of us are holding back. We're trying not to say I told you so, but we told you so. And Gavin Newsom has been telling you so for years and years and years, since 2018, when he began whatever he's doing over there. I don't even know what he's doing over there. But there's another with water in California. Is I know that the courts in California are the ones that dictate how much water the state can pump south, and how much water they divert to the ocean. Now that's where the smelt fish that he's referring to, the misinformation, disinformation, um, loony Trump manifestation that never happened, apparently. The word salad that Trump was chopping up. No, it's a real thing. It's just one of the many issues when it comes to water. But it's a real thing. There is water diverted from going south to go to the ocean in order to preserve or save this fish, right? And they fight about it every year. And there's, the environmentalists that are trying to, chain themselves to this fish. And then, of course, there's the people that are like, we have other priorities. We need to prioritize. So it's a back and forth, but it's real. It's not made up. It's not misinformation or disinformation. He just doesn't want it to be an issue, but Trump's bringing it up because it's one of the most ridiculous things that Gavin Newsom does with money and water, and it happens. It's a real thing. So I don't know where he's going with that non-fact. But there's a struggle in California with water just from the north to the south, because again, the north gets most of the rain, most of the snow, so they have the water to sort of distribute to the rest of the state, and it all gets lost in, for one, wildfires, but for two, farmers. Farmers want some of that water. They need some of that water. So again, the fight every year is how much to send south and the middle valley for farmers, and how much are they going to send, and then of course giving the little offset to the smelt fish, when they could be going to fill reservoirs. But the conflict, and or we can call it the debate, is whether to divert some of the water to the Sacramento, San Joaquin Delta and the San Francisco Bay, to save the smelt fish. Like, that's the debate. Or is it to send it to farmers and urban LA residents? Those are the two groups of people that are like, we all need water. So they're all every year fighting about the percentage that they get, who's in most need, and all of those things. But those are the issues. That's what the argument is. So him just glazing over it, like, no, none of this is, like, no, there's a lot of things that you're doing that you could be doing differently to make this better or easier. Now, oddly enough, which is kind of sad, the growers in Southern California, they get much of their water from a totally different system that actually comes from the Colorado River. They can't even get it from California because of all these policies that they have going on. And it comes from the Colorado River. So they have to go through a lot of different avenues to even get water to where they need it. So this isn't an issue that's simple to, come up with a solution for. But I think him blanketing over the whole thing, like, I'm in charge, but I'm not at fault. I'll take responsibility, but I'm going to investigate this and I'm going to bring you the person responsible. Like, no, you're responsible. Those reservoirs should have all been full. Those fire hydrants should not have run out of water. Um, that's insane to say that. And of course, the whole issue, right? Everybody that was being or supposed to be in charge of the water in California for such things as wildfires kept saying that it was just simply the trunk lines, especially getting it up mountains and whatnot, and that more water was being used than able to be uh, taken up the trunk lines. And it's as simple as that. And you saw videos, which was really sad, because of the helpless nature of the firefighters just standing there and having to watch California burned because there was just no water. There was just no water to use. Now because this came up, I wasn't even going to do this one, but everybody, right, is coming out in defense of Gavin Newsom. Biden, of course, Biden. He should, as the president, just be on there and be talking to the people. But no, his first thing is like, it's not Newsom's fault. Trump is a bastard, and that's all he said, when really he should just be talking to the people who are upset and devastated and give them some hope and faith and leadership moving forward. And I know it sounded wrong as it was coming out of my mouth, but that's what a president should be doing, not coming to the defense of Gavin Newsom because people are finally calling him out on his stuff. That's insane. Sorry, sidetracked. We're going to watch another video because I saw somebody else defending him that really has no defense to give to anybody else. She needs to keep it for herself because she should be in constant defense of the things that come out of her mouth, because you'll see why.
Full of the state reservoirs here in Southern California. That mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us.
Here's how this works. There was a fire catastrophe in California. Had to do with winds. You know how they always say, oh, the wind. It actually does. The winds move things and sparks move things. And it doesn't matter how much water you have if 900,000 buildings go up at the same time. Now, having lived in California, having lost every house save for one that we ever lived in, I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, you know, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather. That happened. This is a catastrophe, and this is what's happened. And let's try to figure out how to work towards not having it happen again. But, you know, we don't control Mother Nature.
Okay, sorry, I pushed the wrong pause button there, but Whoopi Goldberg. First of all, they always try and support their argument by making it more ridiculous just to seem like they're the sane ones. Laser controlling the weather. Yes, the winds, right? Every interviewer was talking about the Santa Ana winds and how dangerous they are when there's a fire going on. It just spreads like wildfire, right? That's what the winds do. Yes, people are used to in California the Santa Ana winds. That's not the only culprit here. Yes, wildfires get out of control. Yes, there's very little ways that we know of to contain them. It's really just trying to fight what you can and get it smaller and smaller, smaller, smaller until it's out. But to come in here and the defense be for Gavin Newsom that that's not the reason, water doesn't matter. Are you kidding me? Did it just start over? Why?
Full of the state reservoirs here.
Now, having lived in California, having lost every house save for one that we ever lived in, I take great offense at pointing fingers. You should be pointing fingers about how can we help?
Yeah.
It's too soon to be saying, oh, it's Gavin's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's like us taking seriously that there are, you know, magic lasers in the sky that direct the weather. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen. This is a catastrophe, and this is what's happened.
Great comparison,
let's try to
Whoopi.
figure out how to work towards not having it happen again. But, you know, we don't control Mother Nature.
We do not control Mother Nature. That's the only factual thing she said in this entire thing. Now, Whoopi, I know that The View has a, it's not a fact checker. What do they call Sunny Hostin? The legal note. First of all, they could be saving Sunny Hostin's entire salary for the year if they would just open a Google app to Google some stuff to get some, you know, real things to say. Whoopi, water is vital for firefighting. Water is the issue that a lot of people are taking with this when they see, I saw firefighters with buckets like of water going to like throw it on a house. Like imagine how helpless they had to feel because they just had to stand there and watch it. And people are watching firefighters watch fire and not doing anything because they couldn't. They had no resources available to them to fight these fires. And her coming on here and saying water has nothing to do with it. Water couldn't have helped anyway. No, Whoopi, that's just insane, unrealistic, and factually wrong. Whoopi, the more water that you pour on a fire, the faster the cooling process, lowering it to the temperature at which ignition occurs. Okay? The fire doesn't go down without a fight. However, the water is converted into steam by the raging heat, but this also helps to work against the fire. Do you know where I got this information? Google, Whoopi, Google. So please, Sunny, get on there and do a legal note for her being retarded. And to all the people in California, please wake up, finally. Please, this feels like one of those moments when you tell your kid the stove's hot and you're watching them and you've already told them it's hot. You told them it's going to burn you. And you know that they're going to find out for themselves. Like you see it in their eyes. You're like, well, I told them. Well, that's who I am. Sometimes you have to watch them touch the freaking stove and burn the crap out of themselves because I tell you what, promise you, it is a fact that after the first time of them having to feel it, sense it, smell it, taste it, all those things for themselves, they come to their senses, they will never do that thing again. So California, did touching the stove, will you ever do it again? Are you going to be voting Democratic? Are you going to be following Newsom and these crazy policies? How much more do you feel like your state can take? Is this going to be a learning moment, or is this going to be shifted to deflect and investigate what happened here and blame everybody else except for the leadership in California? These are questions that really only you can answer. This is horrible. We all from the United States are watching this. We're horrified. It's sad. I feel for the people that have lost their homes and their lives. And somebody just came out and said that companies, insurance companies, just months prior to this fire, they no longer sell or give or cover fire in their thing. This was like somebody had it, I don't know what I was watching, but just months before this fire, everybody lost their fire coverage because insurance companies wanted to, I believe it was a policy for California to up the price, obviously because wildfires are becoming more and more prominent every year. But yeah, so a lot of these homes, they lost their fire insurance, which I feel for you. That's horrible. That's awful. But that's also why I see these people every year after year after year rebuilding and it burning and rebuilding and it burning and rebuilding. I don't understand. I don't. But this was definitely a mismanagement of funds that could have been helpful, allocated. And I know that there was no one way to fight these fires, but when you're left empty handed and you're helpless, that's different. There should have been resources for them. There should have been something for them. And now Gavin Newsom trying to go on there and save face. It's up to you, California, to not let him do that, to continue demanding his resignation. And we do feel for you, but we told you so.